Professor Pikita Intuli, Miss Alakananda Roy, Dr. Abraham Sarante, Dr. Ashwin Mahesh Dalvi, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, colleagues Ms. Cheryl Banwarilal, Mr. Piyush Khandelwal, distinguished guests and online viewers. Welcome to the Heritage Festival, Virasat Parva or Umcibi Wamagugu, with today's being the second day, with the theme being Heritage of Creativity. We would like to welcome you all. Without further ado, we would like to begin with the remarks of Professor Pikita Intuli. Professor Pikita Intuli is a sculptor, poet, academic based in South Africa. Welcome, Professor Pikita Intuli, for your remarks on the heritage of creativity.
Actually, it's Pitika. Okay. When I speak of the heritage of creativity, I'm speaking about the creativity in the whole of Africa. I would like to confine myself that creativity is quite a very, very wide, term. I would limit myself to the visual arts, to poetry, to drama, as well as to dance. Originally in Africa, when people saw people getting sick and there were floods, they knew there were spirits out there, and those spirits, they could not see those spirits. So, in order to deal with those spirits, then they had to ask the artists to create works of art in order to visualize, those spirits. That is why then in festivals, you see people with different masks representing particular gods and goddesses, of our country. That is where we originally, came from. But then later on, when colonialism invaded in our countries, it became again the role of the arts as well as cultural activists to come ever with creative ways of dealing with the issues of colonialism. Lots of poems, a lot of paintings, a lot of dances were created in order to build our resistance against the invaders, of our country. It is also very clear that anybody who has been following the anti-apartheid struggles in our country, the role that has been played by the music of Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masikela, Abdul Ibrahim, and the rest of the powerful creative people in our country pushing forward, and also the role played by poets, particularly in the 60s and the 70s, when the country was now being rendered ungovernable. You have those powerful poems. I'll give you an example, for instance, a poem written by the late Pika Masego, just 3 months before the uprising in the Soweto uprising. He called this poem Generally Speaking. Generally speaking, in Africa, we canon saluted General de Gaulle of France. He packed and left Africa. Churchill, we watched it bowing out parade. As for General Eisenhower, he wouldn't dare to come here. General Spinola of Portugal lost his generalship down in the African bush. It is time for us to take cover. For generally speaking, the best of the generals is a general uprising. You had poems such as those. You had poems, those that were also condemning the arrival of the things. They came from the west, sailing to the east with diseases flowing through their veins. When they found us friendly, in Africa my beginning, in Africa my ending. They said to Mugabe, unataka nini hapa mwewewe, si ndugu zako za Afrika Kusini, unafika nchi ya Zimbabwe, in Africa my beginning, in Africa, my ending. So we had all of those poems. You had artists like Dumile Feni, whose images really brought people together during the anti-apartheid movements. The Ben and Sushas and the rest of the other people who use this creativity to do that. So currently now, in my concluding remarks, I am having an exhibition right now of 44 bone sculptures, and each of those bones has got its own poem. The exhibition is called Azibuyele Emasisweli, Return to the Source, where I'm calling on people to return to our heritage of creativity, to make our art that are linked to spirit, that are linked to our souls, rather than that are linked just only to to commerce or art for art's sake. So, in order then to push our creativity and push and develop a new heritage, is that during this exhibition that's going on right now, 33 of my bones were sent to 33 creative people, intellectuals like Hobby Baba, Guki Watiogo, Yvonne Shaga Shaga, Sbongile Kumalo, and rest of them to look at those bones, so that they should be creative in a different sense. So the bones sparked off the creativity of these people, so that they came with poems and also came up with songs, all addressed to what is confronting us today, the pandemic here, because art and healing cannot be separated. You can never have any art without healing, unless we are just doing a very business deal with the people. So, in conclusion, therefore, I would just like to say that creativity is about developing our imagination, carrying us beyond where we are, beyond what we think, what we see, what we feel, what we wish for. Thank you.
Medium on fire. Prometheus stole the fire of the gods, gave them for us to cook our food and light our caves. I am a medium born from flames of memory and history. I dance you into health, watched by the full moon. I am the warrior of the spirit at war with pandemics, to appease the angry earth, abused, polluted, pillaged, raped. Dance with me the ancestral dances to heal our souls and those of those who drown in rivers of greed and corruption in our land.
Thank you so much, Professor Ntuli, for those very deep, knowledgeable remarks on your heritage. We would now be screening a video of cultural performances representing the heritage of creativity of South Africa. We hope you really enjoyed this very deep performance. Our next speaker joining us live from India is Miss Alakananda Roy, who is an eminent dancer and social reformist based in India. Welcome, Miss Roy.
Creativity and heritage. I think it goes hand in hand, because in any creation done from the heart, expressing an emotion, be it music, sculpture, art, or dance, becomes heritage. I will talk about dance since I'm a dancer. It is the most ancient form of expression. When there was no language, then people expressed their feelings, their emotions with hand gestures, with their body movements. And those gestures became mudras: a flower, a bee, lion. See, this is waves. So this becomes a language which gradually become mudras, and it takes a structured form. And how can we not use mudras in our any dance form? Then that is heritage. Today we can perform in any language as a dancer, but our roots are in movements and gestures. That is heritage. When there is a strong root and we branch out, how can the river Hooghly not remember its source? That is heritage. Any creation, whether it's sculpture, music, everything is heritage. Any creation today will become heritage tomorrow, because creativity, creation, everything evolves. Any art form, any creation will evolve with time. It flows like a river. If it didn't happen, then it would become a stagnant pond. As we flow, we move on, but we have our source behind, which is again heritage. Anything that is there in creation, what is contemporary today may become classical tomorrow. Contemporary is here now. And as we move on, the contemporary becomes the heritage. If we do not remember our past, our values, our culture, we can never, ever progress. We just can't leave everything behind and forget and destroy what has been there. To move ahead, we need our roots. A banyan tree today has strong roots. That is why you can't, no storm can easily bring it down. That's because of its roots, its heritage. And if we ruin what is there for us, what has made us what we are today, then we will be ruining ourselves, because in future, the future generation may also destroy what we have created. And gradually our roots will get weak. But when we create something, it should not be just for our eyes. I'm speaking about the art forms. It should come from here. It should be like an offering to the divine. The temples of Konark, Ajanta, Ellora, the people who created that, did they ever think that for centuries people will still go and admire, not just admire, we take pride in our heritage? I'm an Indian. I take pride in my Indian heritage and all the art forms, the creativity that is there. If we lose our roots, if we destroy what has been left behind, those beautiful things, be it music, dance, sculpture, art, writings, literature, poetry, I don't think we will go very far, because history is what we lean back on, and holding the hands of those creations, we have to move on. Let us take pride in what we have for centuries to be able to move ahead. And whatever we offer to the divine, any art form is divine. But whatever we offer to the divine, we try to give whatever to our capacity, something that is perfect. How can we offer something imperfect to the divine? And that is what makes it so beautiful. Our art form is our prayer. Our art form, our creativity, is what we leave behind for the future generation. Let us take pride in our heritage and cherish it and love it, respect it, so that what we create today is also loved, respected by the future generation. That is how we will have that strong foundation of culture. Our heritage is our pride. Namaste.
Thank you, Ms. Alakananda Rai, for your deep, insightful remarks. We will now be screening a cultural video performance representing the heritage of creativity of India. I hope you all enjoyed that video. Next, our next guest speaker is Dr. Abraham Sorote, the Director of Social Cohesion of National Department of Arts and Culture based in South Africa. Welcome, Dr. Abraham.
Good afternoon, and many thanks for this invitation, which is a celebration of heritage, a celebration of our diverse heritage as a society. Many thanks to the invitation that you have extended to the Department of Sport, Art and Culture, that we too be part of this most auspicious occasion, which is to mark Heritage Month, noting that tomorrow will be Heritage Day, which is really a national celebration of our heritage in its diversity. It is important to restate the obvious right at the outset, particularly in the context of this invitation. The Indian Consulate General has extended this invitation to us that we be part of the discussion. And I'm encouraged by this invitation because what it said to me and to the department was that the Indian community sees itself as an integral part of South African society, and by extension, its heritage. In other words, we can't talk of the South African heritage to the exclusion of the Indian heritage. In fact, South African heritage is a hodgepodge, of customs, of traditions, of ways of life, of epistemologies, of various communities whose totality constitute the makeup of the broader South African society. And so we are very encouraged by this invitation that we to be here to make a contribution to the discussion, which is about celebration of our diverse heritage. One of the first things to say as well in the context of this discussion, particularly looking at the mandate of the department, South Africans will be acutely aware that the current administration has 14 priorities One of those priorities is social cohesion and nation building, for which the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture has overall responsibility in terms of coordination, in terms of giving support to all social cohesion and nation building efforts, but also doing monitoring and also reporting to government on a regular basis in terms of progress against the program of action on social cohesion and nation building. And why the national days are important, in particular the Heritage Day, which is a component of our National Days program. The national days are important. The Heritage Day in particular is important because we look to the Heritage Day as one of the foremost platforms through which to promote social cohesion and nation building. In other words, we see the Heritage Day and the Heritage Month as a lever or a foothold or a mechanism through which we can bridge socio-historical divisions. And that has been important, and it's a view that we wish to state at the very outset as we get into this discussion, which is about celebration of our diverse heritage. So we don't celebrate heritage in terms of its aesthetic component, but we celebrate it because also there is a political economy of heritage. People can make a living of heritage, and that's why heritage is important, and that's why it is important to make it inclusive, so that various communities in South Africa feel included in the makeup of the broader heritage estate. Another point to bring across is that what is the efficacy of the National Heritage Project given our socio-historical past of divisions? We know, for example, that in the past, our diversity was used as a mechanism or as a tool to exploit people and to divide people. And speaking of transformation of the heritage landscape, one of the important things to do in the since the dawn of democracy in 1994 was to undo those wrongs, was to look at the makeup of the heritage estate, to look at the meta-narrative in terms of our heritage, and ask serious questions in terms of who that heritage depicted, who it celebrated, and who was excluded. And the task since the dawn of democracy in 1994 has been to right those wrongs of the past. So that when you talk about heritage, when you talk about the National Heritage Estate, it is all inclusive, and all people can feel part of it. There is another argument in terms of heritage that we should be careful and not put a lot of heavy weighting on the sub-identities, whether they be ethnic, whether they be cultural, whether they be linguistic. And because some people think that by recognizing the diversity of our heritage that way, this necessarily detracts from the broader ideal of one united, unifying South African identity. I don't think so. I do not think that by celebrating the diversity of our heritage, that necessarily detracts from the broader ideals of one unifying, overarching South African identity. I do not think that this overarching South African national identity that we're talking of is in any way, or can be in any way in competition to the the sub-identities we are talking of here, which we ought to be celebrating. I do not think that when people express themselves at one point as Zulus, as Xhosas, as descendants of the Khoi and the San, and as Indians, I do not think that they are necessarily saying that they are not proud to be South Africans and that they are not South Africans. I do not think that by extension they are saying that their primary mode of identification is the sub-identity, is the Indian identity, is the Zulu identity or the Khoisan identity. I do not think people think of the sub-identities that way, and I do not think that they think they are in competition to this broad, overarching South African national identity. So it is important to celebrate our diversity. It is important to acknowledge difference, but to acknowledge difference in a way that is edifying, and not in a way that can sow divisions in society. And that is what we've been about. Most appropriately, the theme for this year's National Heritage Day and for Heritage Month is celebrating South Africa's living human treasures. And looking at those human treasures, what we sought to do was also to acknowledge that heritage hasn't only been racist in the past, but heritage has also been gendered. And this is quite obvious to understand. A quick glance at our national meta-narrative in terms of heritage, you'll see that that's a almost total absence of women in that meta-narrative on heritage. And part of the transformation of the heritage landscape, part of the transformation of heritage in general has been about correcting that wrong, and this remains work in progress. Very appropriately, we have government has identified three flag bearers or standard bearers in terms of this year's celebration of heritage, and very deliberately all the three flag bearers this year, who are the face of the National Heritage Day and Heritage Month, are all women. Mama Dr. Esther Mahlangu, a famous painter who has put South Africa on the map, using her Ndebele heritage in terms of artistic expression. The second one is Mama Matusini, who is well known and renowned for her knowledge in terms of traditional African instruments, and those have been, I understand, been integrated into formal music curriculum in some of our premium music conservatories and academies in the country. We also have Uma Katharina Esau, who is one of the very few people alive who has knowledge about one dialect of the Khoi and San, and she's been teaching that language to the young ones. And South Africans will be aware that last year in particular, it was the Year of Indigenous Languages, but she's been working at this project for many years, and we thought that it would be prudent and appropriate that she be honored this year as well as one of our living human treasures, who has been doing a lot of work in terms of unearthing, in terms of codification of this particular Khoi and San language, but also in terms of the teaching and the science behind the teaching of that language. And she's been doing a lot of work with young people in terms of the teaching of this language to the young ones. So we've made a deliberate decision this year to, in ensuring that the faces of the Heritage Month are all women, given the gendered nature of the heritage discourse in this country. and the fact that not that women are part of the heritage meta narrative. So that has been important. But as I say, the part of government's work in terms of the National Days program in general, but Heritage Day in particular, is to provide a foothold or a bridge in terms of making sure that those socio-historic divisions of the past are increasingly or progressively undermined. So that instead of looking at these differences in terms of this diversity as a weakness, we in turn look at it as a strength. So that has been important. In general, it is important to celebrate heritage, because heritage speaks to our collective sense of self, our collective identity as a people. It speaks to our shared histories, our ways of life, our customs, our aspirations, our forms of knowledge, and the science behind in the dissemination of those various forms of knowledge, which we know that for the most part they have been suppressed. But this is the decade for us in ensuring that those forms of knowledge now come to the fore. And part of the celebration of living human treasures is to also look at the issue of indigenous knowledge systems and see how those forms of knowledge can be unearthed, can come to the fore, and be codified so that we are able to so that those forms of knowledge are transmitted from to future generations. So that has been important. But overall, it is a celebration of our diverse heritage. It is in keeping with the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, which, especially the preamble, which enjoins all of us as South Africans to work towards healing the divisions of the past. It is in keeping with the vision of the NDP, which says that progressively South Africans will be more inclined to celebrate the things they share in common than the things that separate them. So it is in spirit, in the spirit. It is in keeping with the spirit of the NDP that we celebrate heritage. But also, it is part of the government's broader program of social cohesion and nation building that we utilize our national days, such as the National Heritage Day, as a foothold, as a bridge, as a mechanism of convergence, so that people from different communities can come together in a spirit of celebration, in a way that fosters a national consciousness, but more so national unity. So thank you very much for this invitation. I have thoroughly enjoyed most of the contributions that have been made, and we wish to continue with this discussion, and may you have a blessed, happy Heritage Day tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your very insightful remarks. Our next speaker joining us from India is Dr. Ashwin Mahesh Dalvi, who is the ex-chairman of the Rajasthan Lalit Kala Academy, India faculty, Bansantali and Maharaja Sayaji Rao University, India. Welcome, Dr. Ashwin Dalvi, for your remarks.
Thank you so much, and I would like to start with the traditional Namaste and Sani Bodani. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be invited in the online program Virasat Parv or Heritage. Kindly accept my heartiest wishes on the occasion of Heritage Day of South Africa. Being an Indian, I feel proud to share that both the countries, South Africa and India, represent extensive panorama of heritage, history, culture, and diversity. I extend my compliments to Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India, Durban, for organizing this online Virasat Pearl, which is intended to investigate, analyze, understand, discover, experience, and comprehend the deep, rich heritage of South Africa and India. Indeed, both the cultures share a unique synergy of togetherness. I'm asked to speak on heritage and creativity of India. As you all know, India has always been known for its affluent heritage and culture, the root cause being certainly creativity. The distinct culture and traditional identities are displayed through various forms of arts. I'm an instrumental musician and therefore will depict my thoughts and ideas of heritage and creativity through my art form, that is musical instruments. But before going on to the musical instruments, let us have a glimpse of the rich traditional heritage and culture through the architecture, or let's say through the sculpture. We have great examples of architecture in the form of Vitthal Temple in southern India in Hampi, where you have a unique combination of musical pillars in the form of architecture. What a combination of architecture and music. Each pillar creating different note of music, different sound of different musical instruments. To look at maybe world's biggest single stone temple, Kailash Temple, scientists are still surprised as how can it be done without machineries, and it has been done centuries back. To look at sculptures, example of sculptures, Ajanta, Ellora, or Khajuraho, being the example of the traditional sculpture making in India, which are amazing. Coming on to the music, it has its own unique features, and one of them is it is still the oral tradition. Being musicians, we are still not allowed to use any notebook or pen, and it has been passed on from centuries to centuries, and it is still alive. The tradition is oral tradition. So, music, sculpture, architecture, this unique heritage. I'm proud to be the part of this culture, and to divide this traditional music of India, it can be divided into three categories. We have classical music, we have folk music, and we have tribal music. These streams have different musical instruments associated with them, unsurprisingly correlated to each other. I would have loved to share some audios, but since we do not have that facility, I can move on to the cultural history. There is a long cultural history and process of evolution in the existence of these musical instruments. But unlike other musical instruments, Surbahar was an instrument which was invented due to the political reasons and not as a part of evolutionary process. I have the privilege of being one of the very few performers of this unique instrument and also trying to promote the instrument through the possible ways. It is believed that in the British period, the musicians in the court were concerned about their successors, and this was due to the court's despairing attitude towards different art forms, perhaps due to the political scenarios in those days, which resulted in drawing a thin line between the bloodline and the pupils of ustads, gurus, and teachers. It is said that it was Ustad Umrao Khan Binkar, the great Rudravina player, made instrument for his talented student Ghulam Muhammad Khan, and teaching him this instrument, Surbahar, and not the traditional Rudravina, a true example of blessing in disguise. And at the last, I would say Surbahar, an instrument that insists you to close your eyes and explain the true meaning of Margi Sangeet, the music which perhaps leads you to the path of self-exploration. India has been a land which has two streams in everything, and music is one of them, where you have the Margi Sangeet and Deshi Sangeet. Margi means something which takes you to the marg or to self-exploration, self-realization, and Deshi means the folk form of it. I really want to thank you again for inviting me, and I wish you will be listening to this unique instrument and enjoy the deep sound, which certainly takes me to a different level of consciousness.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwin Dalvi, for those very insightful remarks. I would like to now call upon Ms. Cheryl Banwarilal to render this afternoon's vote of thanks.
On behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, it gives me great pleasure our deep Pitika would like to express our deep gratitude and to Ms. Alkanada Roy. We would like to express our deep gratitude and say thank you to Dr. Abraham Sirote. We would like to express our deep gratitude and say thank you to Dr. Ashwin Mahesh Dalvi. I would like to and say thank you to Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center. I would like to thank Ms. Shasti Harinarayan for always being our lovely MC. I would like to thank Mr. Piyush Khandelwal for all the technical support. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.